I'd like to introduce our speaker. Many of you already know who he is, and I was here at the first service, so I know you're in for a real treat. Mitch Austin has been in public service for over 30 years. He said the first talk he ever gave was when he was 6 years old, and it was in a Science of Mind church. And he has also been a practitioner for the last 4 years. And I know he's a very good practitioner. I stand with authority on that because I was his Prac 2 teacher. And he has worked with Inner Critic for over 6 years, which is the subject of his talk today. Please give a warm welcome to Mitch Austin.
Thank you. Wow, that was great. Standing ovation. My work here is done. I'm complete. Thank you all for coming here today, and it truly is a dream come true to be up here and be able to deliver this message. And I also want to thank the teens for showing up today. Yes. It's my sincerest hope that you'll get something valuable out of this message, as all of you will. So here at CSA, we talk about all thought is creative and influential. That's something that we teach here and that we see play out in our lives. And that's why, for me, the work of the inner critic is so valuable, because it's that voice. You know that voice I'm talking about? The one that tells you should or you shouldn't. Don't wear those shoes with those pants. Don't tell your teacher what you really think about that assignment. So sometimes it helps us navigate the world and be successful in what we're trying to achieve. Other times, it keeps us stuck, keeps us small, keeps us from moving towards our dreams or using our voice and speaking out or leaving toxic situations. So that's what I'm going to address here today, is that element of the inner critic. Now, I want to be perfectly clear. I am not a master of my inner critic. I am a student. I am learning this as much as anybody else on the planet. And I hope that I figured out a few things today that you'll find helpful. It's funny, even just yesterday, I was getting ready for the talk, and I went into my room, I made my bed. I looked around the room, and there was stuff all over the place. And in came my inner critic, and it said, really? You're going to help people better your lives, but your room looks like this? Like, what does that have to do with speaking? What does that have to do? But the inner critic starts making stuff up. And the danger is if we let it affect us and feel small. For a second, I kind of went, you know that deflated feeling? So teens, this is a lesson to you. This is why your parents have you clean your bedroom. So you have to deal with this. I'm just kidding. So the definition of the inner critic that I use is it is the collective voice of the world that operates through our ego. That part of ourselves that believes we are what we have, what we do, what others think of us, and that we're separate from one another. And that belief system manifests through this voice, and it keeps trying to convince you that that's who you are and motivates you to take action. See, if you are what you have or what you do when you don't have or you don't do, you're not. You know, I think during the housing crisis, the real crime wasn't people losing their homes. It was losing their sense of home and place. And when people move out of their jobs or they quit or they get fired or they get laid off, we're in agony because we don't know who we are. Happens a lot. It happened to me. And I don't know about you, but I can't control what anyone thinks about me. I mean, that's just an exercise in insanity, because really somebody else's judgment of you most of the time isn't even about you. It's about their own inner critic shining onto you. So there's a paradigm of the world that the inner critic operates on, and it's if you have the job, you'll do it and you'll be successful. Anybody know that paradigm? That sound familiar? Or if you have the stuff, you'll impress the neighbors and you'll be accepted, right? It's a have, do, be model. And in 2008, I had been living that model most of my life, and it came to a point where I looked at my life and I didn't see anything that was authentically me in it. If you'd looked at my life from the outside looking in, based on this definition of success, you would have said, oh, you have a great life, right? You have the 4-bedroom house with the pool, the partner, the really secure job, 6 figures, good benefits. You should be happy. I heard that all the time, but I wasn't. And I knew the job wasn't for me anymore. I didn't love it. And the partner, I knew 2 months going in we shouldn't be together. But I was still stuck on that hamster wheel of success. Anybody ever seen that? Can relate to that? Hamster wheel of success? Yeah, we need to get off it. But the inner critic will try and convince you, and it's very convincing, that if you have, you can do, and then you'll be. But the haviness of things never creates the lasting being of things. You know, you run up the ladder of success, you get the promotion, the inner critic says, good job, you're satisfied for a second, then it says, don't screw up. Get in early, work harder, right? And then it starts all over again. So my time here with CSA, what I've learned is a different paradigm based on spiritual laws, and that it's really the opposite. That we need to be those things on the inside: love, success, harmony, peace, joy. And when we cultivate that on the inside, we do loving things, we do peaceful things, and we become the source of that we want to manifest in our life over and over and over again. And we see this play out in our society. Lottery winners who win the lottery, within 2 years, they lose all the money. They weren't abundance on the inside. But millionaires who go and they construct their millions and they cultivate this sense of abundance and they know it's coming from them and they can create it, they'll lose it and create it in half the time again. This happens over and over again. It plays out. We hear it in the stories. We see it in the examples. So don't let your inner critic convince you that the haviness of anything is going to create the beingness. So what's our inner critic for? Be nice if we could just have an inner critic-ectomy, right? Just cut it out. But it's there for a very good reason. It's there to navigate the rules of the road in the world, right? So if I go to a job interview, I would love to wear my ripped, torn jeans. You might have seen me wear them here. They're real comfy and they're all faded. But the inner critic's going to pipe in and say, wait a minute, you wear that, you're not going to get the job. Right? It's going to advise me on how to get what I want. It's going to advise me on how to have my intention clearly be translated. And the other thing our inner critic does, it helps keep us safe. If I'm walking down a road and I want to go down an alley and I see a group of people, my inner critic might chime in and say, is this safe? And that's a good thing. We need to make those judgments. The difficulty is when the inner critic is the only voice at the decision-making table of our lives. And then it keeps us stuck, or it keeps us going through analysis paralysis, or it keeps us doing some of these behaviors where we can't move towards our good. There's 4 disguises that the inner critic uses: doubt, delay, distraction, and confusion. Doubt's a really good one. Don't wear those shoes with those pants. Don't try for that promotion. There's people way more qualified than you. I know I felt that way. It tells us things to keep us immobile. Oh, don't try for them. Okay, I won't move forward. Just stay still. Or it engages us in analysis paralysis. Keep double-checking those facts. Keep looking for more information. You can't move forward yet. Or the evil twins of delay and distraction. Those are my favorite. Delay will tell distraction, look, you distract him. And when you're done distracting him, I'll convince him he doesn't have enough time. If you come into my office when I have a big project, my desk is clean. You know something's up, because I've been doing everything but the project. So those are some of the disguises. And then the last one, which I think is the most subtle one, is confusion. And confusion, in my definition of it, is that deep down intuitive wisdom clarity we have covered over by the voice of the inner critic and fear. So I don't really believe that we're confused. We have the high wisdom and truth within us. Like I said, 2 months into an 8-year relationship, I knew I shouldn't be in that relationship. I knew that wasn't the person for me. But in came the inner critic, but your mom likes her. The only one she likes. That's a good reason. Or it steps in and says, you'll never find anybody else. Who else would love you? Look at you. And so for 8 years, I stayed in that relationship until I was able to wake up and stand up to my inner critic. And it's my hope that each of us will stand up a little sooner, wake up a little bit more, allow that authentic part of ourselves to come to the forefront of our lives. There are some tools that I'm going to share with you to get past that inner critic. And if you want to learn more about the tools and some of the strategies, come play with me on May 21st all day. We're going to have a good time with our inner critic. One of the tools I want to talk about is find a trusted friend. So the word here is trusted, not just any friend. Someone who has good judgment, whose judgment you can trust, who knows you. Anybody know somebody like that in your life you know you can go to? And if you don't, come see a practitioner. We can be that for you. I had, when I went to Human Spirit, I did the Taming Your Inner Critic workshop. And on the way up, I was driving, I was playing the music, and on came Katy Perry Roar, right? You held me down, but I got up. And I thought, this is perfect. I'm going to play it for the inner critic. Yeah, get up, speak your voice, conquer the inner critic. And so I had this vision of playing the music, and people would be dancing as I came up onto the stage, and we gave the, and it was beautiful. I mean, there was rainbows and unicorns, and it was very exciting, very exciting. And I get to Human Spirit, and I look at the schedule, and my workshop was scheduled to start at 9:20 a.m. In came the inner critic. Really? You're going to have people dance to Katy Perry at 9:20 a.m.? Are you crazy? Like, I just, oh. The next day I had lunch, and there was a trusted friend at my table, Diane. Diane, are you here? She couldn't make it today. I said, Diane, I got to get your opinion on this. And I told her, I said, I want to play this music. I want to do it at 9:20. Nobody's going to dance. She goes, I think it's a great idea. And she said, people will dance, don't worry about it. And everybody in the table started chiming in. It's like I had a whole team of cheerleaders. Yeah, go for it. Just vomited out my inner critic, and all of a sudden it disappeared. See, that's what a trusted friend can do for you. I did play the song, and we rocked it. It was awesome. The second tool, and this is a tool I use all the time, and for me it's really powerful. So play with these tools. One may work for you, one may not. Don't let your inner critic judge you about the tools, okay? Not your lane, inner critic. Affirmations and meditation. So I'm having a little bit of challenge at work. Anybody? Challenge at work, right? Work is a sine wave. Yeah, it's good, it's good. Ooh, challenging. Here's where I am. And I noticed my thoughts. My inner critic was starting to judge me about it. Work was feeling heavy and hard. I thought, I need an affirmation. So the affirmation that came out organically is, you are divinely directed, protected, uplifted, and celebrated. I just stood there with that. And any time the inner critic came in and said, well, what are they talking about in the other room? They must be talking about you. You know that voice? It's just convincing you. Everyone's talking about you. I'd step in, nope, I am divinely directed, protected, uplifted, and celebrated. And on the inside, I cultivated that energy. So how did I show up when somebody came and greeted me at work? I was coming from there, not from, people are talking about me, life is hard, work is bad. I'm going to show up like this. I showed up like this, and it's transformative. Actually, the people that were causing all the trouble, they're gone. They can't handle all this goodness, right? They just left. Very powerful. And the last tool, which is my favorite, is speaking the high truth to your inner critic. Having that hard, loving conversation, tough love. When I was a newly ordained practitioner here at CSA, one of the things we do is we get up here and we pray, right? And we just let it all out. And I noticed that every practitioner got up there did such a great job. And my inner critic's like, well, what if you don't sound like Brenda? Ugh. What if you forget to thank someone in the thanking phase? Ooh. And so I avoided it. I'd do anything. Give me children's church. Give me anything. Give me anything. And then I realized that I wasn't living the very principles I said I was going to be living as a practitioner. And I felt the disconnect because the truth is I really did want to pray up there. Some practitioners don't, but I did. I really wanted to. And I said, look, inner critic, our number one belief here at CSA is God is all there is. God is all there is. So if I go up there and I pray and I open my mouth, God is going to come out. And that's enough. And I said, look, inner critic, either that's true or it's not true. And if I don't believe it's true, I really need to just turn in my stall and go do something else. No judgment, just go do something else. My inner critic went like this. And the next time I prayed, I said, God is all there is. And I got up there. I didn't rehearse it. I didn't write it down. And it came out and out, and it felt so good. But I had to stand on that high truth and let it have some expression in your life. And when I do that over and over again, I notice that I get more faith, more belief. Those faith muscles are growing now because I was able to speak the high truth to my inner critic. And here's the high truth I know about everybody here. Everybody, without exception. No matter what you've done or didn't do, no matter what your bank account says, no matter what your in-laws talk about you, all those judgments, inside and without, that each of us is a piece of the divine. We don't beat our hearts. We don't wake ourselves up in the morning. That's God within us, the perfection within us. And when we listen to the inner critic, that's when we step into that fear zone and we don't show up as the magnificence we are. Spirit, don't make no junk. No junky flowers. No ugly sunsets. And within each and every person present here is that. And it is my deepest prayer and greatest hope that you don't ever let your inner critic convince you otherwise. Thank you so much for letting me bring you this message today. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Let's take this message into prayer. Because you know I got to pray now after all that. Just knowing that we live and move and breathe and have our being in this one mind, this one heart, this one power by whatever word you use to describe it. It is living and breathing all life on the planet. It's beating all 8 billion hearts. And that power, that love and wisdom is all of the affairs of my life and the affairs of the lives of each and every person present here. That perfection, that love, the world didn't give it to you. And it can't take it away. And I'm just knowing that we're gaining victory over our inner critic, that our authentic self is stepping forward, and that our inner critic is now a servant to that highest God self within. And I give thanks for this. And I give thanks for communities like CSA that help us remember the high truth and to embrace it and to love one another and to share it. And this I give thanks and for so much more. I release this word and together we say, and so it is. Namaste.